Bryan Kohberger's life behind bars? Already a living hell. I'll tell you why his fellow prisoners at the Idaho Maximum Security Institution don't like the infamous killer. Plus, President Trump and Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky sync up ahead of Friday's U.S.-Russia summit. And just 3 days after taking control of police in Washington, D.C., the president is planning his next steps. I'll tell you all about part 2 of his plan to make it nice in the District of Columbia. Those stories and more today, Thursday, August 14th. I'm Caitlin Becker, and this is the New York Postcast. Apparently, being a cold-hearted killer doesn't make you any friends, even in prison. Bryan Kohberger was transferred to his permanent prison home just a few weeks ago after a judge slapped him with multiple life sentences for slaughtering 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. And evidently, Kohberger isn't Mr. Popular in the pokey. He's reportedly already complaining about harsh treatment from his fellow inmates. A former homicide detective, Chris McDonough, says the 32 other prisoners on Kohberger's block are, quote, the worst of the worst outside of death row, and that they were waiting for him. McDonough told News Nation's Ashley Banfield that Kohberger's blockmates had hatched a secret plan to make his life a living hell long before he arrived, and that the guards were completely unaware of it until it was set in motion. The retired detective says that the other inmates are using the vent system and kicking doors, quote, harassing him to the point where it's basically driving him crazy. But boo-hoo for you, Bryan? He's basically being hazed. And since he's not really at any physical risk because he's in solitary confinement, the guards are reportedly turning a blind eye. And considering the fact that Bryan Kohberger could have found himself in front of an Idaho firing squad had he not copped a controversial plea deal with prosecutors, suck it up, Buttercup. It's the least of what he deserves. Now to a parental advisory. When kids misbehave, do you blame the parents? Gloucester Township, New Jersey, which is a Philadelphia suburb, passed a wild new law that enforces what you might call radical accountability, punishing parents for public disturbances caused by their child. It's called Minors and Parent Responsibility. This unique ordinance is in reaction to a massive brawl that broke out last year. 500 minors throwing down like that one scene in Anchorman at the Gloucester Township Day and Drone Show. Now that brouhaha ended with 11 arrests, including 9 teens and 3 police officers injured. So what can teenagers do now that gets their parents grounded in the big house? Well, there are 28 juvenile offenses covered by this new law, ranging from disorderly conduct to immorality to the destruction of playground equipment. But in addition, there are substantially more serious crimes like assault, drunkenness, and drug dealing. The Gloucester police chief told a local paper that his town is simply following the example of others and that warnings are issued to parents, but don't heed those warnings, and things escalate quickly to 90 days behind bars or a fine of up to $2,000. Some parent groups, they're not fans of this, but the parents the Post talked to had a much different attitude, best summed up as, well, it's not going to be my kid, so they're actually in favor of the law. Well, yeah, until it is your kid. Well, now over to Alaska. Well, almost Alaska. Ahead of Friday's historic meeting with Vladimir Putin, President Trump spoke with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, who, as a reminder, is persona non grata for this initial one-on-one.
We had a very good call. He was on the call. President Zelensky was on the call. I would rate it a 10, very, very friendly.
After the call, which also included several European leaders, Zelensky told reporters that he and President Trump are of one mind heading into this, saying that the number one goal, the thing they both want, is a ceasefire, and that a ceasefire is what has to come first before almost anything else, including security guarantees that Ukraine says it needs to move forward. Zelensky also said that Trump and Western allies provided reassurances that no final decision about what happens in Ukraine would be made without Ukraine at the negotiating table, because again, Putin and Trump are meeting mano-a-mano on Friday. Now, for his part, President Trump told reporters that if Friday's meeting goes well, a second meeting with Putin would include Zelensky, quote, almost immediately. Now to our big story. It's been just 3 days since the Trump administration took control of D.C. Metro Police and called in the National Guard, but we're already getting a sense of how things are going in the nation's capital. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt noted 23 arrests after the first night of the crackdown. And yesterday we heard about one particularly unique felony charge. D.C. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro says a Subway sandwich shop patron who apparently doesn't approve of the crime crackdown was caught on camera chucking his sandwich at a federal agent. Well, he's now been charged with assault on a police officer. I also learned yesterday that the president is already eyeing an extension to the 30-day limit of the power he has to federalize D.C. cops.
So we're going to need a crime bill that we're going to be putting in, and it's going to pertain initially to D.C. We're going to use it as a very positive example. And we're going to be asking for extensions on that, long-term extensions, because you can't have 30 days. 30 days that's by the time you do it. We're going to have this in good shape.
The president said the bill will also include funding for, quote, the finest grasses for city parks and money to fix crumbling roads in the district, which obviously sounds more like the beautification part of his plan than the crime reduction part. The Post's chief Washington correspondent, Stephen Nelson, has been my eyes and ears on the ground there, and he joins me now. So talk to me about this congressional bill. I mean, what is it? What's in it? Crumbling roads and elite grass, obviously not crime. So how do those things factor in?
Well, the bill has not been written yet, and it's important to note that members of Congress write bills. People from the White House do not. So President Trump announced today his vision for what would be in this legislation. And he talked about changes to how crime is handled in D.C. There's some various policies that the D.C. City Council has passed that his administration opposes that take a lighter approach, particularly to youth and young adult criminals. But he also spoke about getting money to put new asphalt on the roads, and he spoke about putting very nice grass in the parkland around D.C. Previously, he's talked about wanting to pass a bill that imposes a nationwide ban on restrictions on judges using bail for criminal defendants. So there are all of these ideas. It's unclear how exactly they're going to be packaged and pushed through Congress.
Yeah, I was listening to the list, and it was one of those, some of these things are not like the other there when you're talking about, grass and sort of infrastructure there, and a much needed civics lesson. Thank you for reminding us that just because the president says this is what he plans, wants, needs to do in regards to a bill, he's not the one actually authoring this. The executive branch doesn't, in fact, do that. So it's always a long road, in this case, a crumbling road, from the initial ideas to the actual execution of something like this in Congress. So I feel like we're in the very infancy stages here. But while we're talking about all of this, on the ground in DC, things look very different. Earlier the week, the DC mayor was kind of resigned, I guess is the best way to say it. Muriel Bowser was like, it's the law. We kind of just have to do it and deal with it. Has she changed her tune at all?
Well, Mayor Bowser has been the mayor for 10 years now, and she in moments like this, she does adjust and pivot, and she's been a survivor politically. She was talking about how we're not a city of 700,000 scumbags and punks, and we don't have neighborhoods that need to be bulldozed. So certainly that is for her domestic audience. She would like to stay in power and to be able to push her political priorities. For President Trump, she's been more conciliatory thus far, anyways, and along with the DC police chief, have talked about ways they could work together. And when we talk about President Trump wanting funding to fix up and beautify DC, as he says, the mayor has talked about how she wants federal funding to build a new jail in DC. So it seems like she's also been attempting to use the moment to her advantage as well, putting the bill for that on the federal government rather than local taxpayers.
I know what precipitated all of this was the president trying to shed light on what he called this growing crime wave in D.C. Do we know any of the specifics about whether or not things are particularly worse this year versus last year or previous years? I mean, the crime wave, is that the most appropriate term that could be used for what's going on?
Well, like many cities, DC had a major violent crime wave during the pandemic, and immediately after, there was a mind-boggling surge in car thefts and murders as well. All sorts of crime went up majorly, and DC, those numbers didn't go down quite as quickly as some other cities. Right now, it's a political issue whether there is a crime wave or crime's stable and elevated or not. The official data that the mayor has been talking about show that violent crime is at a 30-year low, which sounds pretty good. Murder is not. It's come down a little bit, but it's not 30-year low or anything like that. There's a controversy here because the police commander for one of the most densely populated areas of DC just was suspended a few weeks ago for allegedly falsifying data to make it appear that things were getting better down here. The DC Police Union said that this is a citywide issue, that the Metropolitan Police Department leaders have been putting pressure on subordinates to falsify crime data to make things look better. So it's hard to tell with certainty. Murder is probably one of the things that's hardest to falsify. And the numbers there are down slightly, but they certainly are not a 30-year low.
It's also one of the metrics that I think people look at the most. It's the scariest. It's one of the most serious. So you're right. I mean, not to be able to falsify the amount of people who are killed in a specific area is definitely one of the tougher ones there. So it'll be interesting to see how the numbers shake out once this 30 days are up. And then, of course, that the president floating the idea of extending this 30 days beyond that. And I know you will be there to tell us all about it. Stephen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
What do Rocky Balboa, the Phantom of the Opera, and four men with luscious black hair, skin-tight leather pants, and a face full of makeup have in common? Donald Trump. Confused? Well, allow me to explain. They are among this year's crop of Kennedy Center honorees. The president unveiled 5 recipients of the annual Kennedy Center honors yesterday. The rock band Kiss, hence my reference to tight pants and makeup, disco queen Gloria Gaynor, country crooner George Strait, and the OG Broadway Phantom of the Opera Michael Crawford. And last but not least, Philly's hometown hero, Rocky himself, Sylvester Stallone. The president says he personally approved each and every one of the honorees.
I turned down plenty. They were too woke. I had a couple of wokesters.
The Kennedy Center Honors are Washington's annual lifetime achievement celebrations of the arts. And this year, President Trump says he's going to host the event himself. Now, as for the future, we have an idea of what next year might look like. For 2026, President Donald Trump said that he might just recognize President Donald Trump for his own showbiz career. I mean, it's no Emmy, but it's something. And finally, age is truly, truly just a number for Leonardo DiCaprio. The Peter Pan playboy notoriously refuses to date anyone over the age of 24. The running joke in Hollywood is that one's 25th birthday effectively ages them out of Leo's love bracket. This is not written in stone. His current girlfriend is 27, practically geriatric by the DiCaprio measure. Why am I telling you all this? Well, the Titanic star divulged a bit about why he's all about the roaring early 20s. In an interview with filmmaker Paul Thomas Anderson, DiCaprio, who is 50, mind you, flirting with 51, put his mental age at 32. The age of a Jonas brother, of Miley Cyrus, of Ariana Grande, who notably are all too old for him to date. This grown man, this Oscar winner, was asked about his emotional maturity, and he basically answered, "I just a baby." DiCaprio added that he sensed a perspective shift since he hit the big 5-0 last November, saying, quote, "You have a desire to just be more honest and not waste your time. You have to just be much more upfront." How's about being upfront about being middle-aged? They say you're only as old as you feel. I don't think we were supposed to take that literally, but I kind of get it. Most of the time, I feel like I am 28. Unless I attempt to go out past midnight, then the next day I'm feeling 98 with a bum hip. And if I need to build IKEA furniture, I'm suddenly 3 years old and have not yet mastered fine motor skills. Speaking of skills, though, check out our skilled reporters on the New York Post in print or online and enjoy the skills I do have. Make sure you like and subscribe to the New York Postcast wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. He's 50 and he feels 32. That tracks.